You can.
Please.
Well, the outbreak started in Guinea.
Yes.
So, when it spread to Sierra Leone, how did you feel about it?
Well, we felt very bad. We felt obviously sorry for the people of Guinea, who are our neighbours, and we've had a long relationship with them. They're French-speaking, of course, and we're English-speaking, but we are neighbours, and our people are very closely entwined. So it was quite a tragedy. The fact that it happened in Guinea first didn't really make all that much difference to us, in the sense that we're very closely connected to them, and we felt that, you know, we were all in it together.
So you feel like a family, sort of?
Yes, we did, and we do. We call that area, obviously that's the western coast of Africa. It's part of the Mana River. We call it the Mana River Union. The Mana River Union is a collection of countries: Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, the Ivory Coast. 4 countries in that particular area that have actually suffered similar problems in its recent history: civil war and economic difficulties and this kind of thing. But we were very unhappy when we first heard of it in Guinea, and of course even more unhappy that it came to our country.
I see. Well, Ebola was very serious in the countries that you just mentioned.
Yes.
So how was the severity compared to those countries, to Guinea and Liberia?
Well, it was very severe. It was very, very severe in all countries, in all the countries. Guinea was probably more heavily affected. It started there. We still don't know how it got to Guinea in the first place. Of course, you probably know that it's been in other countries in Africa before, and other parts of the world for that matter. It's a horrible viral disease that seems to actually just pop up from time to time. You probably know through your research that it was in the Congo in East Africa at some stage, and before that in other parts. Terrible viral disease, and we still don't know what really happened. We have some formal reasons being put forward. We also have our conspiracy theories, which probably are not so real in terms of truthfulness of it, but certainly we are not. We've been very unhappy about the outbreak, and we had to work very hard to sort of put an end to it. And it's still not finished. It's coming to an end, but we're probably more in control of it than we were before. But it's still there.
So Sierra Leone was recently declared free of Ebola.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How long do you think this will last? Do you think it'll last a while, maybe a short amount of time?
No, it hasn't. In fact, since unfortunately I have to tell you that within the last week, one case has emerged again. Ebola is a terrible disease in the sense that it lingers for quite a while.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go like that forever and just disappear to the ends of the earth. It can pop up from time to time. The good thing, however, is that because of the experience that we've had, we've been able to control it better. So with this particular new case that has emerged, we've been able to take very, very strong, active steps to prevent the spread. We've done a lot of quarantining, and of course there are quite a lot of experts in the country at the moment, and we hope that this new outbreak, we wouldn't call it an outbreak really, basically it was a lady who had died. We don't know how that person died, but I think she came from the border, from Guinea again. She got the disease probably on the border in Guinea, came over to Sierra Leone. The borders, by the way, are very porous. You can walk your way, There's so many points that you can just literally walk from Sierra Leone to Guinea. And she died, and this lady who was subsequently caught it was involved, her auntie was involved in washing her body and preparing her body for burial, which is one of the time when the virus is at its strongest, when you first die. So this person caught it, this aunt caught it, and she's been dealt with at the moment. But we feel that we are in control of it, and we suspect that 1 or 2 cases may pop up in the future. But at least for now, there have been a lot of improvements. We can now control it better by some of the methods, and of course vaccines are now being produced for the very first time, And in the past 24 hours, we've had a batch of vaccines being taken to that particular area, and quite a number of people are being vaccinated against it. So we hope that we would be able to contain this latest outbreak, but it's certainly no way compared with what we had before. So on the one hand, Ebola is over, in the terms of the massive scale, but there would be occasions, we have to expect it, when they would be popping up from time to time. The critical thing, however, is for us to be able to deal with it very quickly.
You mentioned burial traditions.
Yes.
Do you think that assisted the spread?
Absolutely. It's very strange. In our country, burial traditions are very, very important in our life cycle. When somebody is born, it's very important. We have our rituals and traditions, naming ceremonies, bringing them outside for the first time, pointing to the various corners of the earth, asking for divine blessings, this kind of thing. And then, of course, when you die, it's also a very important part of our own African traditional life cycle. We have to prepare the bodies for burial, particularly in the Muslim tradition. We are divided in terms of not divided, we have various religions, or two main religions, Muslim and Christian. 70% of our population are Muslims, and Muslims have to be buried normally within 24 hours of their death. And this, of course, is very difficult. And this is when the virus is at its strongest. So traditionally, you have to wash the body, and it has to be done by members of the family in a particular way. And we've actually been telling our people time and time again, you have to stop this. This cannot go on. You have to deal with it in a particular way. But when you've actually been born with these type of traditions and you've actually practiced them for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's very, very difficult to actually just put them just to forget about them.
To let go of them.
To let go of them. Tradition is a very important part of our culture, as it is, I'm sure, in your culture and many other nationalities. Unfortunately, this is one that we haven't been able to properly let go of, because it's considered to be respectful and helpful for the dead person on its journey, to the afterlife, and to be properly washed and properly laid for burial. And this is unfortunately how, in this particular latest case, this poor lady caught the disease. But as we speak, no other person has been infected. There are some high-risk contacts in the sense that all those that may have been connected in some way have all been quarantined, and we're keeping an eye on them minute by minute to see what happens.
Now that Sierra Leone and the surrounding countries have dealt with such a high-scale crisis and this horrible disease, do you think that maybe the next time, if there is a next time that something this large happens, will you be able to deal with it in an even better way, or maybe faster?
Yes, we hope so. I mean, this is, you have to look at the society that we're living in today, Sophia. We're living in, it's like a global village. We're all together in this. And this is not really just a Sierra Leonean problem. This is a problem which we all have to embrace. When we had the MERS outbreak in Korea some months ago, you could imagine the difficulties that caused. These type of diseases now affect, they are trans-global and they're trans-border, they go across borders. So on the one hand, we have to be able to take steps as a country to look after our own people. And to answer your question, I believe, yes, the lessons that we've learned would make us in the future be able to tackle these kind of things. And one of the things that I've been doing here as ambassador of my country is to try to get expert help in terms of preventative measures, where you have suitably qualified personnel with the equipment that could detect these things much quicker. Quicker detection, very early detection is the key. If you can actually detect this Ebola very early, the chances of your survival are are much higher than if you leave it to linger for about 2, 3, 4 days, whatever. So you have to catch it quickly, and you have to be able to deal with it quickly. And we've had some remarkable survival rates. There was a time when this Ebola was actually almost 90%, you would die. Now, of course, we've been able to raise the odds to almost 60-40%. So people are surviving from Ebola. Of course, that's another story in that we still don't know the effects of those, the long-term effects of those that have actually had Ebola and have recovered from it. We're still learning a lot.
So how did Ebola affect the economy of Sierra Leone?
Very badly, I'm afraid. Before Ebola, we were actually having something like a 60% growth rate in our economy, one of the largest in the world. We had very good export earnings from some of our minerals, iron ore, for example, and other minerals we were having, and agricultural production. There was a lot of money coming into the country from investment, and etc. But then in 2014, all that collapsed. So a massive decrease in our export earnings and our investment. Tourism, of course, died completely. It was a devastating consequence. We had a lot of problems, and we're just emerging from those problems now. Very difficult. So to answer your question, it had a remarkable negative effect on our economy.
The tourist part of the economy, is that going back up now?
It is gradually. Of course, this type of one-off cases don't help.
Yeah.
We're lucky because the resultant effect of the latest Ebola case have not been negative in the sense that we're not being whipped again with countries saying that their nationals shouldn't come in and all this kind of thing. I think at this moment everybody's watching to see that we're able to control it properly. So as we speak, we're still on the up gradually. So yes, things are getting better gradually. It's going to take some time, and we all have to be very patient. Some of us are not so patient. We want things to happen very quickly. But unfortunately, the world the way it is, you have to be patient with all the repercussions of it.
Media hype played quite a large part in raising awareness about Ebola, but in some parts of the world it kind of went too far. Do you think that the media portrayed the situation in Sierra Leone accurately?
No, I don't. I think that in some countries like Korea, it went completely, it sort of became better, but the initial results, or the starting point was terrible. There were sort of notes on doors that all Africans were not allowed to go into bars and all this kind of thing. And I think the media had a very big part to play in it. However, to be fair also, the Korean public, as an example, were not particularly aware of the consequences of what this Ebola was. And like many other people in many other different countries, it was a learning process for everybody. However, things obviously went gradually better. We all had to play our parts. There were news crews here, and I had to talk to the press and to talk to the newspapers and to try to help to portray what the real situation was, in terms of Ebola. But the media was, it went through almost a 360-degree circle. The start was very bad, and then it gradually sort of went better, and that was as a result of people learning a little bit more about it and having to deal with it in a more responsible way. Of course, interesting, using this country again as an example, because we're all living here at the moment. After that MERS came, and there was the same, albeit not in such a clear way, there was this media problem also, even amongst Koreans. They were all, I found it very strange going into airports and finding them all with these masks on their faces, and it was really terrifying at one time. We were all scared, and we were thinking, we as foreigners are all walking around quite freely, and they were all having all these masks on their faces and being very, dealing with it in probably a slightly different way. And I think that the media also played a part in this. the media didn't handle it, even that particular outbreak in this country, very well, in my view. But then it became better, you know, and the realism and the reality of the situation sort of kicked in.
So during the outbreak, or what was the peak of the outbreak, there was a lot of media reporting, newspapers, TV, and now that it's kind of slowed down or simmered down, so Ebola survivors, they feel like they don't have enough treatment, and now do you think the media needs to step in again?
Very good question. I think that the Ebola survivors, certainly in terms of our country and the way that we've treated our Ebola survivors, my president and our government have actually taken that position very sensitively. We've gone out to the countryside talking to our people in terms of reintegrating these unfortunate victims back into society, because they've all been in hospital and quarantine, and you know, they've been locked away almost, you know, for fairly long periods of time. But yes, they've, you know, I think that the situation has been handled very well. But unfortunately, I think that we still have a lot to learn from these victims, because we're finding out now that there are side effects, you know, either whether it's from the medicines that they took or from the actual initial Ebola that actually, you know, affected them, in terms of some of them are not having problems with their eyesight, and some of them are having problems with motion, stuff like that. And we're actually continuing to try to do and to see what we can to help.
So, Ebola has affected one generation more than the other. Do you think that's true?
Yes, it is. One of the saddest things that you would find if you go to my country today is to go to one of our grave cemeteries, and to see the amount of 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, you know, all with crosses, in terms of those that died during that period. Very, very, very disheartening thing to see. It has affected a lot of, you know, people from various ages and parts of society. One generation, yes, I think that we could say that a lot of children have died, and there are a lot of victims, a lot of orphans. We're doing quite a lot at the moment to also try to help those. We wouldn't wish it on anybody else, so we all collectively have to come together to ensure that when these type of diseases strike, and they can strike anywhere, that we're all together to do everything that we can to push and to deal with some of these problems.
Currently, could you give me an example of maybe some measures that have been taken to help the orphans that have been orphaned by Ebola?
One of the things that we've been obviously doing is bringing them all together, going from village to village, town to town, to identify families and those that have been orphaned by it. We will take them, and obviously we are taking much more sensitive measures in terms of their schooling, to make sure that they are sort of dealt with in a much more sympathetic way. Having had Ebola has its, obviously, there are also, although we've tried to do a lot to help that particular issue, there are side effects in terms of people's perceptions also. Oh, Mama died from Ebola, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, but what if, you know, this kind of thing. So we've been, we're teaching, we're having teaching classes, we're having experts coming from various parts of the world, particularly where Ebola, you know, has also been to teach about, you know, some of these issues. But education, making sure that they're properly clothed, they're properly fed, they're properly looked after, is quite an important aspect. You know, there are quite a number of NGOs from Sierra Leone, within Sierra Leone, and from outside that have come in to actually take care of Ebola orphans. There's a lot more we can do for them. There's a lot more I'd like to see done for them.
What about the situation today? What is the situation of Ebola, apart from the new case?
Well, we're all obviously emerging from it. It hasn't been easy. It took well over about 18 months to get over it. We're getting over it gradually, although it's not particularly over in the sense that, and I don't think it's going to be over for a long time. I think we all really have to look at the reality of the situation. We've been able to control Ebola, but Ebola, unfortunately, is not yet over. We've made a lot of advances. Now we have vaccines and we have a lot more interventionist forces that could actually handle these things, but it's not over. We pray to God that it never emerges in any other part of the world, but all the scientists are saying that it would. So what we need to do as a world is to watch for the telltale signs and try to deal with it. In our particular country, unfortunately, it's had a very negative effect. Our economy is devastated. It's going to take some time for it to grow, but we're very resilient people. We've had 11 years of a civil war and we survived that. We now have Ebola, or Ebola is going. We've defeated it, on one level. So I believe that, like everything else, we'll emerge successful and victorious. But we have to bear in mind, as a country, that it's not going to be easy, and we have to be very patient.
Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.